Everyone loves getting a reward, and students are no exception. But what I love even more than giving out rewards to kids is giving out free rewards to kids. Hello, my time crunch teachers, and welcome to the show. This is your team teacher, Mariel Desrosier, here to help you optimize your teaching, technology, and time management. Joining me today is the glitter-obsessed third grade teacher, Stephanie Hedgpeth-Lopez.
Hello.
And today we're talking about class rewards that are either super cheap or completely free, but knowing the two of us, we'll just go off topic and have fun, and then I'll just change the title of whatever this episode's supposed to be. Stephanie, how are you doing today?
I'm fine.
Awesome. So what do you have for us in terms of cheap or free rewards for students or the class?
Well, I like to kind of think about two categories, which really don't cost a lot, any or much money at all. And that is either free time or some sort of acknowledgement.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. Kids love free time because they so rarely get to just play and have choice in what they play. So what are some of the things that fall into either one of those categories?
Well, you can do something easy like we get extra recess where they just go out and it's like not PE time because they can do whatever they want in a certain space. If you have certain rainy day recess things or games, then they get to have free time with that. But I also like to use it as sneakily letting them explore things.
Oh, I like that.
Such as I will have free art time. We get free art, and I will put out a variety of supplies like construction paper and scissors and whatever. Not glitter. Glitter is, I like glitter, but it is
Not
at
during
a
free time.
station. Not a free, that's not a free thing. And just say, okay, you have this much time, do whatever you want. And it's a way for them to be creative. It doesn't cost you anything because you just use all the school supplies.
Right.
And they have a way to be creative, have a creative outlet. It doesn't cost you anything, and they have fun. Something else could be like science, like using science as a reward, which sounds weird, but like today you guys get free magnet exploration.
Ooh, that's a good one.
So something that they have that they want to mess around with anyways, but then they have the permission to mess around with it. And in messing around, they also discover and learn different things.
That's a great idea because I remember when I was first teaching and my mentor teacher was talking about, hey, especially, well, I was going to say with the younger kids, but actually middle schoolers did this too. If you have any sort of manipulative or even like a tool, like using a protractor, which I know sounds super simple, like let the kids explore it first. Like don't try to teach a lesson with them and hope they follow along and use the little county bears on the weight scale. Like they're going to want to play and, have a whole little counting bear community and social system before you actually start to do the math. So I like your idea twofold. One, for a reward, but also just to start off playing with those tools or materials before they, get down to business if they actually have to use it.
And it becomes a reward, like if you've already done that and then they use it, like, okay, we're working for this much time in free math tools and they can build their little counting bear houses.
Exactly. And I think with every class or every year, I found different classes gravitate towards different maybe, stations or games. Like with this last year, I had a group that loved the floor puzzles. And last year's class wasn't really into the floor puzzles, but, I had 6 or 7 floor puzzles I would take out on a rotation and they loved it. And that was definitely, community building, but also just fun for them. And we have to remember too, we're recording this in the summer of 2023. And let's see, the kids going from 2nd grade into 3rd, so into your class, had kindergarten online and completely online. So they missed a lot of those fundamental social, interactive, taking turns, gameplay. Yeah, so any sort of opportunity for them to have that, I think, is really important.
That's true. You should think about what social experience did your particular class miss because of the pandemic, and it'll explain a lot of behaviors and things that happen.
Yeah, totally.
And you also have to think about what is their currency. Like you said,
Ooh,
whatever works this year might just fall on its face the next year. And so you have to kind of figure out, what is this class into? Are they really into running around for free play? Or do they really want to play Uno for the 100th time?
Right.
Another thing to think about is, are you the kind of person that how you're giving these rewards? Like, do you do group points or table points? I'm horrible with points because I feel like I'm not fair. I miss that one kid or the one kid's at the table where everybody else is messing around. And so I personally don't like to use them a lot. However, there are some groups that it just totally works for. And often the group points would go to something like, you guys get to be all first on Monday. Everything we do, you get to be first.
Right. So the points don't need to be winning a physical thing.
No.
It could be winning a privilege or something special.
One year I had an ants in the pants game that lost all the ants from my kids.
So it's just pants.
It's just pants. And I stuck them foam stuff and fake flowers in them. Uh-huh. And the award for the team was they got to have the pants at their table.
Oh, I like that.
So some sort of silly group award could be just as motivating as, a bunch of erasers that they all argue over.
Oh, no, that's true, because sometimes that silly little thing you have in your class is sort of your class inside joke. What you just said reminded me of my middle school science teacher. Shout out to Mr. Cooper. That he went to a thrift store
at the junior high.
At the junior high,
you had Mr. Cooper. Oh my gosh!
Oh, that's cute. Did you have Mr. Hammer for social studies, or did he come later?
Yes,
because they had that fake rivalry where they're always like, well, when you go to science class, because who needs science? Yeah, exactly. But they were actually friends. Anyways, Mr. Cooper, I don't know if he did this when you were there, but he went into the thrift store and bought a bunch of bowling trophies and stuff. But then he would change them. So the bowling one was the Saturn trophy, and he painted the bowling ball. But anyways, point being is because he taught, 7 classes of 7th and 8th grade science, he would have that review game right before a test. And whatever section or period got the most questions right, you got to hold the trophy at your station or your table. So for example, if third period got the most right, they got the Saturn trophy, and it was this big deal. And it had no value except bragging rights. But it was so funny, and we all bought into the cheesiness, and every unit he had a different ridiculous trophy that I'm sure he paid $1 for, and he would have this whole backstory about how special it was, and we just loved it. So I think any of those sort of funny...
the older you get, the cheese factor is really important.
Yeah, they actually really like it. They sort of buy into the goofiness.
Yeah, I had a 5th grade class that our song to get clean up was the Blues Clues song, because my kids were young enough to listen to it, but I just had it on tape, and I would, play it, and they would all clean up to that because, they were grown up, but they thought it was funny.
Yeah, having a little bit of irony in the rewards is fun. That reminds me of one of my sort of free or totally free rewards is, after the pandemic, our classrooms are outfitted with those gigantic speakers that blast music through the whole classroom, which is awesome. But you can hook up, your iPhone or whatever to it. And so my students loved being the kid who picked the cleanup song. And I got a little burnout on this because I started this the year Encanto came out, and I was a little over Bruno by the end of the year because they all picked the Bruno song. But the kids loved that. And it's such a silly, kind of easy throwaway thing. It's you get to pick the cleanup song, but they loved it. And, granted, be a little cautious if you're doing it with middle school on up that you've pre-listened to the song.
Here's the pre-approved list that you may have.
But I've also done that in middle school where, for example, I was teaching math, and if they showed their work or had that scratch piece of paper or whatever, then they could submit, sort of like a DJ, they could submit songs to be on the approval list for us to listen to. So
cool.
They turn in their quiz or test, I'd look it over, and then they'd fill out their little song request form and put it in a box, and I'd look at it later and we could listen to it.
And along with group points, when I did do those, a couple times I had to because of some curriculum we were doing. But I would also, the group that got the most points for the day or the week or whatever it was, got to donate them to the class points.
Ooh, I like that.
And then the class won something, because then that also took away from, there was a little competitiveness that they wanted to be the ones but they got to donate them to the class. So we would do something for that.
I like that. This was not on my list, but it made me think too, because I was thinking about community, is one of the easiest rewards is just find a buddy class. So if you teach 3rd grade, you could buddy with kinder, or you could buddy with 6th, or whatever it might be. And even my own actual children, my own sons, loved on Friday when they got to hang out with their buddy class. And what I liked when I taught middle school and having a younger, like second grade buddy class, is you get to see those middle schoolers really, kind of grow and mature and look after the little ones. And even your ones that are a little more kind of rule breaky or maybe like push the boundaries. It's really funny to watch them sort of corral the little kids like, no, you have to... you have to clean up your mess, or like, no, we're lighting up now, or like, pay attention, this is the directions. Or the wild ones just find each other and you just have compounded craziness, but they have fun. One of the rewards that I like that is not a traditional reward is I have a cozy corner, and I like calling it that because I hate the term calm down, and calling it a calm down corner, automatically I get reactive and riled up. Stephanie knows how I feel when people tell me to calm down.
Oh, don't ever say calm
down. Don't ever tell somebody to calm down. And so anyways, ours is called the Cozy Corner, and it really is cozy. It has like a little fuzzy rug, and it has like a nice little seating area. It has a big old plant and a bunch of sort of fidget things and books and all that sort of stuff, and the kids really like it. And instead of presenting it to the students like, well, this is where you go when you need space, or if you need to calm down, I actually on the first day say, oh, that's our Cozy Corner, and it's a special place where you can sit and work with a small group or a friend. If I say that the Cozy Corner is open, and if I feel like, you can handle it and stay on topic. And immediately all the kids want to be in the Cozy Corner, and they all want to sit there with their friends, or they want to really focus on the assignment because they get to sit in the Cozy Corner. So I would say, set up a nice little student area, and of course, change it to be age appropriate for whatever grade level you're teaching, and selling it as the reward. Then when the kid needs it, it's nice because they've already associated a positive association and memory with it, and it doesn't feel like the shame corner that you go to when you can't control your reactions to things. So I would definitely recommend that sort of student space.
As far as acknowledgement goes, I had a couple things I've done in the past, and it kind of, again, depends on your group. You can get those markers that you can write on the window.
Oh, yes.
And of course, I had to think hard to write. I would write backwards so that it would be on
when
the
you
inside.
Look through it. Yeah.
But I wrote the names of kids as they completed a multiplication table section, like some little test or something.
Oh, okay.
And they wanted their name on
the window.
I was also, when we had this weird couple months after the pandemic where you could opt in to come into the classroom. And so I only had some of the kids, and we were playing bingo, which is a whole other story because they did not know. I was thinking, oh, they know how to play bingo. They did not know how to play bingo.
Yeah, a lot of those kind of traditional, like I did a Jeopardy review game, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
What do you mean it has to be a question? I'm like, never mind, just give the answer.
Exactly. Anyway, I went, oh no, I don't have a prize. But then the prize became, I had a piece of construction paper, and it said Bingo Hall of Fame.
Oh.
And you got to choose which color and how I would write your name on it if you won. Like, do you want it in cursive? Do you want it in capitals? What color do you want? And that was like reward enough.
That reminds me of one time, I don't even know why I did this, but I like wrote a kid's name in cursive on the board, and you would have thought I was like some sort of calligraphy celebrity. They lost their mind. They're like, dude, well, because they're second grade and they like are barely know how to print their name. And so they're like, do mine. And I just filled the board with that sounds so silly. Filled the board with their name in cursive, and then they spent like 20 minutes wanting to write in cursive.
Second and third graders, and maybe beginning fourth, you can really use cursive as a reward. It's really weird. Like, when we get to do this, I'll teach you how to write your name in cursive. They get all excited.
Oh yeah, they get super excited. Imagine combining the cursive with like the gel metallic pens.
Or the glitter pens, as mentioned before.
The glitter pens might be the only way to introduce glitter to the classroom. In terms of whole class rewards, something I remembered, I actually did a YouTube video on this one because I love it so much, is I know it's very common because I've done this, to fall into the trap of sort of punishing the whole class for one kid or like two kids' bad choices. Like those two kids were like super loud and now, whatever. And so I was trying to get away from that. And I flipped it to, instead of punishing the whole class for one kid's behavior, is rewarding the whole class for one kid's behavior. So for example, before they get that extra recess time, I might say, oh, because Anna worked so hard on showing her work on that last math problem and explaining our process, we're going to go out to recess 5 minutes early. And so what it does is, obviously, the kids get rewarded and they're excited, but the kids associate it not with this omnipotent teacher that's doling out rewards. It's like, no, Anna earned it for us. And because she did this special thing, or whatever you want to look for, especially, I like this, especially for the kid that maybe doesn't get a lot of positive acknowledgement because maybe they're a little boundary pushing or a little bit of a troublemaker. And so sometimes they get blamed for things that happen. So to be able to acknowledge them in front of everybody, and everybody earned something because of that kid's choice.
That goes with, if there's a kid that gets sent to the office or wherever they have to go sometimes, if they did something exceptional or worked through something really hard, or stop crying after 1 minute instead of going on all day or something like that they did, I would say, do you want to go tell the principal or whoever they have sent? They're like, really? Yeah, this is a good note. I want you to. And then I would call the office to make sure that the office manager knew, no, I wasn't sending him for being in trouble.
Right. Don't make him sit in the office for 20 minutes.
Yeah. This is like a good thing. And that can have a lot of power too, because the person that they have to talk to for discipline all the time, it might help to be able to share that they were able to do something.
I love that.
And the same, like, I've sent kids to the library that they finished a book and they were really excited about it.
Aww.
And our librarian is great anyway, so they were like really excited. I want to go show her. So they would tell her how, So sometimes rewards are just letting the person know that someone else in the school that might have faith in you, to let them know that you did it. Even next door, Jenny, who we talk about sometimes, is next door to me now, and I hope she's still next door to me. Anyway, she's developed a relationship with a couple of the kids that had trouble, and so I would be able to let them go, you want to go tell them this? Do you want to go tell her? And they would be all excited.
Oh, that's super sweet. It's funny. I do that with the kids too, sending them to the principal or whoever with the positive note, but I don't tell the kid what they're doing. Like, obviously, I don't pretend like they're in trouble. Like, I'm not like, go to the principal. But I'm like, oh, hey, can somebody deliver this note really quick to, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so? And they're like, sure. And the kid just thinks they're going on like a boring errand. And then on the note to the principal, it says, hey, I'm seeing this kid because they did this really great thing. If you could acknowledge them, whatever. And like you're saying, heads up to the office staff so they don't think the kid's in trouble. And they're like,
why are you here again?
Yeah, why are you here?
Go sit in the seat. Here's your form.
And they love that. And I love, too, the concept that the person who's sort of the disciplinarian gets to have an interaction with that kid that is more positive. And in my past, being a dean of students, it's nice to be able to have those positive interactions so the kid doesn't always see you as somebody that they have to have tough conversations with. Plus, it's fun from the administrator's point of view because, they always have some sort of stickers or erasers or little like whatever, reward or treat. Yeah, they can buy. But they want to be able to hand those out or have a positive interaction with a kid because a lot of their day is dealt with challenging interactions, right? And I think it's nice for them too. But sometimes the kid just needs to go on an air. Like, it's fun for them to go on a little walk.
That is one of my discipline things. Like, I actually had notes already written in an envelope that just say, this kid needs to go out for a few minutes. Can you hand it? And then I had already talked to the office manager, and she knew that when she got the note, she'd go, okay, wait a minute. And then she would wait, and then she would like hand him a stack of office slips or white paper or whatever. Here, this is what your teacher needs. And she would do that and take her time, so that the child had their little break and I had my little break. And that is like one of the best ways when you see something coming up to diffuse an issue.
Yes, send them on a little, on an errand. So I paused the recording, you guys, because Stephanie is by the window and she started freaking out and I didn't know why. And it's because I'm getting my delivery of podcasting stuff that I've been waiting for.
Ooh, I get to be here to look at it.
And it's really not anything special except it's color-coded cords. And we're all about stuff looking cute. So anyways, it's like different mics and stuff, and we're really excited. And had we started maybe an hour later, we'd be speaking on colorful cords and a new mic and everything. But that's okay. It'll be ready for next time. But thank you for pointing that out, Stephanie, because I'm super stoked. And so, listeners, if you hear a doorbell, you know what I'm getting. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, sending the kids on the errand. That reminds me of when I very first started teaching. I was teaching 6th grade, and one of my old-time teacher besties, Shannon, shout out to Shannon if you're listening, was teaching first. And she taught me that trick of just, like, sending the kid on a little errand with a note. But she didn't tell me she was doing it. She sent this kid to me, and they're like, Miss So-and-so has, this note for you. And I open it up, and she's a really good, like, artist, like drawing comic, and it was like a picture of like an Ewok that she like hand drew, and I like lost it, and then it took me a minute to realize like, oh, she's just like sending this kid on an errand. So I wrote some little message thing back to her, and then the next day I get some other like picture, and yeah, it was really funny. We would just send drawing. You have to. That only works if you're dealing with kids that like can't read or trust, won't open the note. Well, that's why
I had envelopes already sealed.
Oh, that's
I'm
the
like,
trick.
oh, I really need to. Can you go? And often that is the person that somehow miraculously always gets the job of delivering notes, or
Oh, right.
So I could just randomly do that. Here, oh my gosh, this teacher needs this paper. Can you go take it to them? But you also have to set it up with a few of your teacher buddies. Like, if this kid just shows up at the door with a pile of papers, just go, well, I'm so happy that you brought them.
Right. Don't be like, why did Ms. Hedgpeth-Lopez send you? Wait, what does she want? I don't understand. That wasn't even like a pile of paper.
Because they will do that. I'm like, no, you have to. That's why if you like have it looking official, like, I forgot.
That's a good idea. Man, let's hope no 8-year-olds listen to this podcast.
You can write in cursive for a lot of it too.
That's right. We've already established that if we write their name, they're all excited. So if we write a whole note in cursive, then
they'll spend all this. They'll spend all this time trying to read it, and then they'll be out of the room, and then come back all.
No, but the sealed envelope.
Calm. No.
That's a good idea. I like that a lot. Yeah, and as we're talking, what I'm thinking about, and I know we were talking about this before we hit record, is that the thing the kids want the most is just time, right? Like time with an adult, time with their friends, that bonding, that communication, them just kind of being happy and joyful. And my very first year teaching second grade, I thought I needed a class management kind of reward system, and I had all these like coupons and it was a nightmare. I'll never do it again. That's why don't do sort of external rewards or points. But I did it that year, and what I learned that year is even though they could use their little points to buy, fun pencils and erasers or whatever things I had, the thing they all spent their points on was lunch with teacher. All of them. And then they were smart. They would like combine their tickets so that they could do it as a group, and they could like 3 of them could come or whatever. And it got to the point where, I mean, I guess ultimately this saved me money because I wasn't buying a lot of like little things. But at a certain point, over half the kids were having lunch with me on a particular day. And I was like, oh, they just want to spend time. So I actually just got rid of the system and just spent more time with them playing games and hanging out and whatever. And I'm not like a special teacher. Like, it wasn't about me. They just love having the undivided attention of an adult who, they can talk about their soccer game to, or they could, try and coax me to eat Takis, which are still too spicy, and I love them.
I have a hard time doing lunch with a teacher because that's usually my mental.
Well, that's our time, yeah. But but you can do it at the
beginning.
Yeah, totally. No, and that's another thing too. Like, it feels like you are giving up that private time.
But if we have something like free art time, I'm all about like I'll just sit at the table and talk, and you want to tell me your story, then that's totally fine. I'm all good with that. So that free time becomes also that social time.
Yeah,
and
that's a good
during
point.
class time, right? They're not missing recess.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, because it can be pretty exhausting to like give up your break time to be with the littles.
Anytime where I had to keep track of stuff, I did some homework things one time, and it just became like, oh, now I got to look into who. Wasn't even grading the homework, just who turned it in, and
right.
It was, and I had like, oh, if you have this many, you got that. It was too hard. It became too much of a, like you said, time management things. Although I do, and I think I'll still do it, but I got to get a little more organized, is if anybody's read any of those bucket books.
Oh, yeah, like to fill your bucket.
Yeah. I found 3 of them, and there's one I really like because it also taught, I can't remember the name. I'll have to look it up. But also talked about someone trying to put a lid on your bucket, right? So
right.
All these different things.
Somebody kicked your bucket over and spilled all the whatever.
I actually bought, this was the one thing I bought, buckets, like little buckets with their name on it.
Oh, cute.
And sometimes during the year, I go, everybody you can write something nice to somebody. You don't have to say who it is. And I had little samples on the board, and I had little pieces of paper so they could write a nice kindness note on the bucket. And then I would just give them, I had certain ones, like if they passed a level, I'd throw in a little card, which I made just making a table chart online and inserting free pictures and things like that. But I also had them for, like, we went on this field trip, and there's a picture of wherever we went. And they kind of like that. And a lot of them, they were just like funny pictures of an alien or kitties or whatever. And I would just randomly be, what was that for? And sometimes I didn't even know. I'm like, oh, I caught you doing that one thing. You didn't know I was looking. And they would be just kitty. Like, yeah. Oh, really? Oh, wow. You know, thinking they got this. And I didn't even have to remember, just to know that, you know, I know that you do good things and not at a time everybody sees it.
Yeah,
so
that's sweet. Listeners, Stephanie does something adorable for me. We both love Bob's Burgers, the show. She's laughing because she already knows the story I'm going to tell. And is it a calendar? Is that what you're getting them from?
It's an everyday calendar.
Oh, where you like rip off each page. Okay, so it's a Bob's Burgers everyday calendar, and she will cut out the picture and sometimes write a little message or like a funny line from the show and tape it on my door, and I love it. I'll like show up.
My goal is to know that you're here because I hear you laughing down there.
All right. Yeah. Stephanie knows I show up because I'm like, Louise. Yeah. So you could always cut out little. This makes me sound like I'm the teacher. Like I'm like, oh, Shannon sends me pictures of Ewoks, and Shannon and like Stephanie puts the Bob's Burger. Like I feel like I actually do teach children things and content. I'm not just passing notes to my teachers' friends during the day, but it does brighten your day. You were talking about something, and it reminded me of something I did. I saw another teacher do this, and it's brilliant. Do not do this the first week of school. You have to do it after you've sort of built community with the students. You can trust that they're going to be positive and supportive and not just try and be funny. But we had a thing called a 10-second standing ovation. Use those like whatever the sticks that everybody's names. I actually use playing cards, and I just pull out a kid's name, and they stand up, and everybody, this is where it's sort of funny and chaotic, but everybody all at once for 10 seconds says out loud something they appreciate about that person or something they like about him or something that's gratitude. And what's funny is the first time they do it, they think that they can't talk over each other. So it'll be like one kid will be like, thanks for helping me at whatever, or like, you're a really great friend. But I'm like, no. We all do it at the same time. And so what it ends up doing is, because if it's just one person talking at a time, the kid who's getting highlighted, it can feel super awkward and like weird. But it's really funny to have like 30 kids all yelling at the same time. Like, you're really great. Oh, you're such a great blah, blah, blah. And then ring a bell and everyone starts clapping. And then they clap for a couple seconds and they go down. And even though it's this cacophony of noise, like it's all this noise at once, it's really fun when you're on the receiving end because you're basically just hearing a bunch of these positive things thrown out at you.
It's so cute.
But it doesn't feel awkward because it's not like one random person that's like, thanks for, I don't know, you know? And so, yeah, the 10-second standing ovation.
The only other thing I was thinking of, I had used this once and I kind of use it this year. As a school, we did this thing where we were seeing how many books each grade level could read.
Oh, right.
And we did a paper chain. And so I started doing that in the class because they thought that was fun. Anytime you passed a book with like 80 or more AR points, you got to write your name and the title of the book on a little paper chain, and we just strung it across. So that is another way to acknowledge something and have something kind of physical to show about it, but it doesn't cost you any money.
You know, I love that. Yeah, and it's like, can we get the chain around the room?
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I love that.
And you could do it for anything, you know, math facts, being kind, whatever.
Yeah, just make the little paper chain.
Yeah, and you can have a goal of how far can we get it. And that in itself is a reward, just doing that.
Yeah, and it's not a nice little physical marker without it being, you know, look how this one kid, you know, it's not like a gold star chart.
Yeah. I'm pointing to this because I wrote it down because my memory is like, what? That's another reward I've had because when I have to do this phonics program on the whiteboards for spelling, they're whiteboards and they're markers and the kids get all distracted. So when we have a good session, okay, if you guys all work on it, you guys get 1 minute free whiteboard drawing.
Oh, they can do whatever they want.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll extend the time. Also, I also use that time to take attendance or answer an email or do something I have to do. But they're thinking they're earning this time, this precious, I can do whatever I want as long as it's acceptable, school appropriate. And if your mother or the principal came in and saw it, you would not get in trouble. That's kind of how I gauge whether it's appropriate.
I always say grandma. If grandma was sitting next to you, would she be okay with that? No.
Oh, grandma's okay. Yeah, see? Mom and the principal, because then there's like two things going on.
Do you ever let them draw on like the main like the teacher whiteboard? That was the thing all my kids wanted this year. They wanted to draw on the teacher whiteboard and pretend to be teacher.
I have done that in the past. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
This time. I had a kid that was in charge of checking the agenda and the date last year. because I always forget to change the date. So they got to write the date. That was exciting.
Yeah, I never realized. I always thought the line leader would be the clutch thing that a second grader want, but no, it's reading out the menu. Like
Oh,
for the
really?
kids that could read, they would fight over who could read what was for lunch.
Oh, they always wanted to take the library books because there's a wagon.
Oh, yes. Okay, shout out to Mrs. Sims. If you are a librarian, this is what you need to do, because it's nice for us to give her the books before we actually go into the library, because then she could check them in, and she runs this little report of like who's missing their books, and it's very smart system, opposed to the kids checking them back in as they walk in, which I'm sure takes forever. So what she has though is a couple of those adorable what is it, radio flyer red wagons or whatever, and so you as a teacher send one or two kids to go get the wagon. And they get the wagon and they bring it back to the class and they fill it with the books and they go back and Mrs. Sims can check in all the books. But yeah, you're right. They will like throw down to be the kid who gets to go get the wagon.
Those interesting, fun school fact is that those wagons, we used to have breakfast in the classroom.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we're going to talk about that in a minute. So anyways, did those wagons deliver
They were
the
from there,
milk?
and she commandeered a couple of them.
Okay, let's talk about breakfast in the classroom. What are you talking about?
Because they want to make sure everybody had breakfast.
Okay, but this wasn't pandemic times. This was like just school times.
You had breakfast in the classroom.
But why couldn't they do the same thing in the cafeteria and you just...
Because they wanted to make sure everybody got it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right?
If there's
so
like
the
300
wagon would
kids.
come and they'd have the food, which meant you had crumbs, or you had this one kid that somehow managed to spill the milk inside their desk, which is weird because we don't have the desks that open. They're just like the little cubby almost. And somehow it was spilled in their desk.
Inside?
I don't know.
So hold up. So were you spending your entire morning opening milks?
I don't know. Well,
imagine that took forever.
But at the time I was...
Do you have older students?
I was an intervention teacher, and I was in kindergarten during that. But that was the only time I was there. So we were like doing the phonics lessons.
Wow. Oh, so while they were having breakfast, you were teaching phonics?
Go, okay, if you're not chewing right now, I want you to say this. I'm not even kidding. That's what I would say. Because that was the only time we had, and there was the breakfast. And we had to like pour the milk into this bucket.
Oh, yes. I totally remember that as a kid, like the weird discard. You know why? It probably makes sense so the garbage cans aren't like heavy and full of liquid,
totally.
right?
It makes sense.
But it's gross to
it
look
was
at.
so disgusting. And then you had to have some kid take it, and then some kid would forget the milk bucket that was sitting in your sink, gross. And like, oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. I bet you any like young person listening to this, it sounds so old timey to be like, I was the kid who brought the milk bucket. Like Little House on the Prairie. And I brought it down to Farmer Johnson.
That's
and
what
he
I
would dump the
learned.
milk. What?
You always needed to have extra towels in your classroom.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because, for one thing, they spill something and they all stare at it. I spilled this, and it's like running everywhere. And so I learned to get a towel, like throw it across the room. Use the towel, and I'll go home and watch it because the paper towels just
they just smear
push
them.
the stuff around, and it's like, oh my gosh. And I would literally chuck it. Like, okay, get it. So
I'm sure those paper towels are super cheap, but whatever company got the government contract to do those horrible brown paper towels, they don't absorb. The only thing they're good for, okay, I have a couple of Shannon stories. Shannon like saved my life that first year I was a teacher. She had 7th graders. Talk about a weird, funny reward. She had 7th graders. And what they would do is they would take those brown paper towels and just like accordion fold them, basically. So you have like a long strip of one paper fold over, and they would soak them. And then they would put them in the freezer, and you can hand those out as like a little kid ice packs because they can wrap them around their arm or their finger. I know, isn't that smart? And the other thing you can do too is take a sponge and wet it and put it in a baggie and freeze it, and then you just change the baggie to like keep it sanitary. But those paper towels are even better because they can throw them away, and the kids think they're all special.
And they don't absorb so much water.
Exactly. So it's not like a leaky mess, right? And again, they serve no other purpose as actual paper towels, so you might as well use them for something. So she would let her 7th graders like make them in their free time. And then the funny sort of benefit of that is whenever the little kids would use them, the 7th graders would be very particular. They'd be like, well, you don't really need one, because they knew how long they took to like take. So they're like, well, let me see if you really need, the whatever. And so it kept the kids from always wanting an ice pack because the 7th graders would regulate how they were packed. Anyways, she taught me that. And in terms of, you're talking about the milk spilling, she also told me if a kid is throwing up or being sick, one, you want to like take a garbage can and just like huck it at them. But if they're throwing up, do not have them run to another location unless they're taking 2 steps to the garbage can, but don't have them run down the hall. Because she said cleaning up a pile of a kid throwing up or spilling something is so much better than cleaning up a trail of the kid. And I remembered that when my own kids, my own sons were potty training. And I was like, do I want to clean up a trail of them peeing across my house? Or do I just want to deal with it right in front of me? I know we were supposed to be talking about rewards, but I feel like these are gems to hand out. Also, I didn't know this until I started working at school, that weird crystal stuff that you can... Stephanie's looking at me really funny. We have it because I was talking to our custodian about it. It's like this weird crystal stuff that's in like this shaker can, and you dump it over vomit or pee, basically any sort of liquid that's on the can, and it absorbs it.
It's probably like that pretty litter stuff they advertise.
Like, oh yeah, like for cats. It's probably something that's like illegal and then like to use, because I swear the can looks like it was printed in like 1952. But
it's all
you
precious.
dump it.
I only put it on.
No, but it's amazing. It's like magic. After we're done recording, I'm gonna look it up because I swear it's like a real thing, because I've seen it like 3 different schools, and you like dump it and it absorbs all the whatever. And I've always wanted it for my house for like when I had a puppy or like whatever.
Well, they use cat litter for like if you have grease.
Yeah. No, this stuff's crazy. It's like I think it kind of looks like the stuff if you've ever accidentally busted open an unused disposable diaper, like that weird gel. Yeah. It's like kind of like that, but you dump it on. I'll get you some.
I know exactly what you're talking about, because
it's got a funny name to whatever. Maybe what I'm saying is totally made up and it's just been kitty litter, but I feel like it absorbs it in a way.
Kitty litter with a DD instead of 2 Ds.
There we go. Hey man, don't steal that idea, people. You heard it first. Stephanie and I came up with kiddie litter. I love it. All right, so let's move on to our classroom story. You might have your own, but the one I want you to share is about the free present that you once got from a 5th grade class who was particularly good at throwing things to your classroom.
Well, because my classroom is located right next to the bathroom, which is only supposed to be used K through 3, but there's certain 5th graders that...
Well, because it's closer.
Yeah, they tried to get away with always using it, but they bothered little kids. So I know that they're not happy with me being the bathroom police and
I like you being the bathroom police. Sometimes the 5th graders need to go to the bathroom, and sometimes they like to go and chit chat and be loud and yell or giggle or whatever.
Ran by, and I know it's the kid that I had formerly sent to the office for discussion on proper use of the bathroom.
Right.
And the kids are like, he just threw a bagel in here. And this kid just like had half of the school bagel and just like chucked it in the room. And all the kids were like, wow.
It was a run-by bageling. It was a
run-by bageling.
And it was so funny because so we have a teacher text thread, which I highly recommend. If you have some teacher friends where you work, is start a text thread with everybody on it, and it'll just go down these rabbit holes, and it's hilarious. And I remember you said something like, a 5th grader just threw a bagel into my classroom, and it just hit us in a way that was just so funny. And then Stephanie is really good at emojis, and so then she would like some little emojis of like the running guy and a bagel and whatever, and then we needed to know what kind of bagel, and was it eaten, and was he delivering the bagel, or was he just trying to cause disruption? And then your 3rd grader's reaction to it was just hilarious. Actually, it probably turned into quite the bonding moment with you and the 3rd graders of these like 5th graders throwing bagels in our class.
Well, you know, I have used the bathroom thing to get them to realize that when you're given the responsibility and the privilege to go outside of the classroom to take care of your needs, you should not abuse it. And because we got to the point where some kid would do, scream in the bathroom or whatever, like, there's a kid screaming in the bathroom. Do they know that we can hear them? And they got to
because it bugged them. So
right.
They know.
So I know that as they go to 4th grade, most of them will not be those kids throwing bagels in rooms.
Yeah, they'll be responsible. Yes,
but I hope.
It was still kind of funny.
It was.
That's
a good story. We'll leave it with the bagel throwing.
We'll go with the bagel thing. So anyways, whenever we're having maybe a hard day or something silly, we'll text each other little bagel emojis. Thank you so much for joining me today, Stephanie. This was really fun.
It was so much better than cleaning my house.
I know. This is a good way to put off chores. But I cannot wait to edit this podcast and write the show notes of like, what topics did we talk about?
Bagel throwing.
Rewards. The kitty litter.
Kitty
litter. Well, thank you so much, listeners, for your kind attention today. Until next time, teachers. Bye for now.
Bye.
Let's go open that box. See what got delivered.
I know. I was like, what's in the box?
What's in the box?